This dude really sat here and thought, you know what? This is going to be a great shot to zoom in on. I'm going to do several more of these. So anyway, the Macbook Neo released just about a month ago, and I kind of held off on talking about it because I'm not going to buy one, okay? I'm not going to go out here and buy a $600 crap top that, I mean, the only good thing you can say about it is that it's a little bit more repairable than the other MacBooks that have released in recent year. But I knew that everybody was going to just rave over this. Everybody was going to have a heyday being like, oh my god, Apple finally released a new product, wow! And, you know, they did. And it's running off of a iPhone chip, which I don't even really have a problem with. If you can find ways to go ahead and take existing tech, especially in this chip shortage that we faced a few years ago, and then with the memory shortage we're dealing with now, if you can find ways to be innovative with the hardware that you're making, power to you. I just don't like how Apple likes to restrict everything that you acquire from them. For example, on an A18 chip, I really doubt you can run DaVinci Resolve on it, but I bet you could get some decent performance out of it. No, instead, they're going to want you to run iMovie on it, or Final Cut, which, you know, when you've already paid for DaVinci Resolve Studio, why are you going to want to pay for Final Cut Pro or whatnot? You know, an iMovie isn't really DaVinci Resolve, so the point still stands. This laptop, everyone's saying, wow, it's a little bit cheaper than the last laptop. It means it's a great value. Everybody go buy. And it's like, no, okay? And you'll touch on it later in this video. This guy even says if you're trying to do real work, you might want to go ahead and get a used M2 Air. But he doesn't really show it at the price that is being advertised. So let's go ahead and just stop yapping and let's see what this guy has to say about the MacBook Neo.
Apple just made a cheap laptop. Let that sink in for a second. This is a company built on the idea that premium design, premium hardware, and premium price tags were basically inseparable. And an Apple product was never just a piece of tech. It was a status symbol. And for a long time, that was the brand. But something shifted when they ditched Intel and started making their own chips, because the performance gap that they opened up was so wide that it created a problem nobody even at Apple saw coming. 5 years in, and millions of people are still on M1 MacBooks and have absolutely no reason to use anything else. And it's not just people holding on to old hardware. Go on eBay right now and you'll see M1 MacBook Airs selling for around $400. And that's money Apple will never see. The used market is quietly eating their lunch. So this is their answer, the MacBook Neo, a laptop built around a phone chip starting at $599, designed to bring people into the Apple ecosystem who've never had a real reason to even try it, and to win back the ones who stopped upgrading.
Apple doesn't fucking need your money, okay? I mean, obviously to run a business, they need your money, but it's just a little silly. It's just a little silly. There are plenty of reasons not to buy a MacBook, and the biggest reason is Linux support. We've talked before about how people will use Parallels to run Linux, but it's the ARM version of Linux, and it's not as compatible, and there's not as many features and packages that work as well. But you're also just losing out on the privacy because it's an integrated desktop and integrated file system with your host Mac, and it's overall the host machine is a closed source ecosystem, so you have no idea what's going on with that data. Everything you do in that Linux box is being taken from Apple, and Apple promises not to sell your data, but let's not fucking kid ourselves here. They've got your data. Any day they could change their mind. The perfect $600 laptop to replace this would be a Framework 12, and that's because you can install Linux on it. But I know you could find a used ThinkPad on the market. Hell, you could find any used Windows laptop on the market, and I guarantee you that it's going to have all the features that this one doesn't have, like a backlit keyboard. Maybe you'll find a haptic touchpad somewhere in there too, and definitely more than 2 ports. Everybody likes to sit here and say that the MacBook Neo has everything that the Windows laptops in this price point are lacking in, and that they need to catch up, and this is going to shake up the industry. That is literally just because somebody is telling you. That's literally marketing. If you don't understand, they're just marketing to all of you that this is what is going to happen and this is what the MacBook Neo is. But I promise you, the MacBook Neo is just a hunk of shit that is getting propagated by a bunch of hype beasts that don't understand the difference between quality and what they're told is quality.
Nothing about picking this thing up tells you that you're in budget territory. Two things give it away visually: the bezels are thicker than you'd want them to be, and I'll get into that a little later, and the Apple logo on the back is a contrasting metal inset instead of the usual reflective glass finish. And honestly, it's been so long since Apple did anything interesting with that logo that I'd completely forgotten that there was even another option than the glass reflective finish. It's a small detail, but I like it. Even the unboxing feels considered. There's a little hello stamped on the pull tab inside the box, and at this price point, that kind of attention to detail genuinely means something. Inside, you get the laptop, a USB-C cable, and a 20-watt power brick, no MagSafe, and depending on your region, Apple might only include the cable without the adapter, so just note that going into it.
Am I the only person that thinks that packaging is the most useless thing in a product when it comes to your price point? I don't give a fuck how you package it, okay? I want what's in the box. I don't want the box itself. As long as the product itself is safe, that's perfectly fine. There's this great cheap invention called bubble wrap, and using expensive packaging and putting all the labor or the processing in a machine to package a thing to look pretty, I don't give a fuck, dude. That is just not the point of buying a product in the first place. It's not the box. You're buying what's in the box, but I get it. I get it. You got to show off to everybody that you're rich and that you're better than them. That's why you bought a fucking Apple product, because you want people to think that you're better than you really are.
The trade-offs: sRGB only and no P3 wide color gamut and no True Tone. For most people, that will actually never matter because YouTube, Instagram, web browsing, studying, sRGB is the standard for all of it, and this panel handles it beautifully. True Tone is actually the more interesting cut to me personally because the students this is kind of aimed at are exactly the people who'd benefit most from reduced eye strain over longer sessions, but something had to go to hit that $599 price tag, and that's just what went.
I have a pretty good feeling that True Tone did not need to go to hit the $599 price tag. Here's a little tip for you guys. If you notice that products tend to go on sale, I promise you that company is still making a profit off of it. No company is going to sell anything they have at a loss. No successful company the size of Apple would ever truly try and sell anything at a loss in order to benefit you. It is only to get more sales numbers and to get their product out there. Every product is calculated, as far as its cost goes, to be well above what it is worth. So when this guy is sitting here saying, well, that's just what had to go to get it to a $599 price point, fuck you. You're stupid as shit if you honestly think that. And honestly, here's a great tell. It's $499 for the students. Well, where's that extra $100 going? I mean, fuck. You would think if the student paid $599, well then, then they'd get True Tone, right?
Here's the thing that I can't shake. I actually do miss the notch. I know everyone's been praising the Neo for its clean, symmetrical bezels, and aesthetically, sure, it's fine. But what people seem to have forgotten is that the notch on the MacBook Air and Pro isn't just a camera housing. It's what lets Apple push the menu bar above the display entirely. In a full screen app on the Air and Pro, you get the full panel because the menu bar lives in the notch space above it. On the Neo, that menu bar sits on top of your display. Every time you need it, you're nudging your cursor to the top of your screen. Across one session, you won't notice that, but across a full day, it does accumulate. And I'd personally take the notch, but if that clean, symmetrical look is what matters to you, let me know in the comments.
I think this dude might genuinely be fucking stupid. Who the hell wants the notch getting in the way of your menu bar? All you gotta do is just raise the screen up, get rid of the notch, and boom. It's gone. You have all that extra screen real estate. It's called an aspect ratio, buddy. The problem with the notch is that you lose screen real estate, and there's a lot of options in your file menu, like file, edit, view, if you don't know what the menu bar is. It can get shoved off to the other side, and what happens whenever you just run out of space? Because the other half of your screen is time, the day, system tray icons. You're fucked, pal. If you got rid of the notch, I think it would be great. I don't understand why Apple isn't capable of fitting what all is in that notch up into a top bezel that's just a little bit slimmer. Just spread it out across the device. Whatever. Apple wants to have a statement piece, which is their notch, and you love the notch because you just love whatever Apple throws in your face. You have literally no taste or opinion whatsoever, but, power to you, I guess. It must be an easy life not having to think for yourself.
The port situation is where I have real frustration, and I want to be specific about it. 2 USB-C ports and a headphone jack all on the left side. They look identical, but they aren't identical. The rear port is USB 3 at 10 gigabits with display output. That's your main port. External drives, your monitor, anything data related lives here. The front port is USB 2 running at 480 megabits. That is technology from the year 2000. It'll charge your laptop and handle like a mouse and keyboard, but that's genuinely about all it's good for. To Apple's credit, and I do mean this, the A18 Pro chip is an iPhone chip, and iPhones do only have one USB-C port, so the fact that Apple added a second port at all is worth acknowledging. It's just that in practice, that second port barely earns its spot. With no MagSafe, charging eats that one port, and then if you add an external display, you're completely tapped out. So if you use accessories on a regular basis, a hub isn't optional. It's just part of owning this machine.
Oh my god, dude. That is abysmal. USB 2? Apple, come on. You cannot tell me when you designed the A18 chip you didn't anticipate throwing this into a laptop. These chips keep getting more and more powerful. It's kind of like the opposite of compound interest. You're starting to hit a plateau, so you're finding other ways to repurpose your chips. But you're telling me you couldn't fit 2 USB 3 ports on an A18 chip? Come on. I'm almost certain that you could. I don't work for Apple. I'm not an engineer. I'm not Mudahar, so I don't really know exactly how this works. I am going to say with 100% certainty, Apple could have fit a second USB 3 port on there. For $599, 2 USB 3 ports, I don't think that's entirely unreasonable. I'm surprised this fucking machine has a headphone jack, you know? I mean, they nuked that off the face of the earth with their iPhones, and this is an iPhone chip, so I guess I'm surprised it can even handle that.
Storage is a different story. The 256 gig SSD is slow, and not just slow compared to the Air, but slow in terms of being compared to drives from over a decade ago. And this matters specifically on the Neo because with only 8 gigabytes of RAM and macOS using around 4 of it just to run, the system does regularly lean on the SSD as overflow. Slower storage makes that overflow slower. So in real daily workloads with more apps and more tabs than my testing, that combination will likely show up more than it did for me.
I know we're in the middle of a storage and RAM shortage and that, you know, the AI bubble is bound to burst any day now, but I cannot believe that Apple has the audacity to ship 256 gigabytes of storage with 8 gigs of RAM in this year. It's such an insult because their 256 drives are so much slower than the 512 drives, and that's by choice. They don't have to be that slow. And if 8 gigabytes of RAM isn't going to be enough and they have to pull from the storage to act as a buffer for the RAM, like swap, it doesn't matter that it's slower than the 512. You're still missing a whole other 256 gigs of storage that you could be storing your stuff with. Why not just make it fast enough for the user? Why do you got to slow them down? It's such a ridiculous mindset that Apple has to try and trick people to pay more for the higher priced product, but then they can go around and say, oh yeah, well, it only starts with $599. Apple is manipulative with their marketing, and that's why they're able to trick so many suckers into buying their products, and they use their marketing to make everyone think that this is a genuine high-class product, but really, you're just a fucking idiot if you're excited to own a Mac. Sorry.
Let me walk you through an actual day with the Neo because this is more useful than any benchmark. Morning is usual, mail, calendar, a YouTube video running in the background while I ease in. Planning in Things 3, catching up on Slack, hockey highlights, tech news. The Neo handled all of that without even a second thought. Afternoon is where I actually pushed it. I wrote this entire script in IA Writer on the Neo and not a single issue. And I'll be honest, as much as I've been loving this keyboard, I barely type with my fingers anymore. And that's all because of an app called Voice Hotkey.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there. If it isn't obvious to you guys, this is a sponsor segment, but he decided to blend it into his regular video like it's part of the video. I mean, this guy said he thinks a lot about keyboards more than the average person should, but then he turns around and takes a sponsor from a voice-to-text software that claims to, you know, they're AI, and I'm not going to shame him for having a sponsor. I'm not going to shame the sponsor. I don't want to affect his whatever, but it's soulless.
That workflow runs beautifully, and honestly, that's about as hard as I actually pushed it because it became pretty clear early on that 3D modeling, heavy coding, any serious video production just wasn't going to work for this machine. It's not what it's designed for.
Am I the only person that thinks that the macOS interface is just ugly? I can't be the only one. Like, liquid glass looks so bad, but now with these extra bubbled rounded corners and everything, it's so bad, dude.
What I wanted to know is who this actually serves any real day, and the answer is more people than you'd think. It's the student with a paper open, research notes on the side, a few Safari tabs for reference, some music in the background, and maybe an AI chat to bounce ideas off of. It's the person building out a poster in Canva, cutting a quick iPhone clip in iMovie, or grinding 3 spreadsheets with notes running alongside it. It's the manager, the coordinator, the person on back-to-back calls all day with 5 apps open, referencing, updating, responding, jumping between everything constantly.
So this laptop is basically for anybody that needs a laptop. Apple's fucking you with this laptop. I'm just gonna leave it there. Apple's fucking you with this laptop. Anything that he just described is that anything that any laptop can do, and I get it. Maybe you don't want to use Windows, and you got to use Canva. I don't know if there's a desktop app for Canva, but I guarantee you that just loading up Linux on your Windows laptop would be a huge upgrade. There's Microsoft Word compatibility for the file types. You can just use only Office for that. You can even use the web apps of Microsoft Office if you really need to. And the AI that you're going to bounce off of or whatever is all based off of your internet connection. Okay, nothing is being computed on your computer, so that's not happening on your MacBook Neo. You could do it on any laptop. You could do it on a Linux machine. You just need a web browser. So if you already have a laptop and you're like, oh my god, the MacBook Neo just came out, I need to drop $600 on this, but actually I need to drop more money because the base model doesn't have what I need. Just stop. Just stop. Go buy yourself nothing. Just stay with the laptop that you have, load up Linux on it, make sure you back up your data and then throw it on there. And if you have the ability to upgrade your hard drive or your RAM, spend the money on that. Linux doesn't really need that much, and if you hang tight, the prices are starting to go down, so you might as well get an upgrade that's cheaper than the Neo as soon as those prices settle down. There's more in here that he talks about that I'm going to recommend you watch the video, and you know what? Maybe you're a little bit nicer than me. Give this guy a like. It shouldn't be too hard to find. It's the first thing you'll find when you look up MacBook Neo review on YouTube, but I'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description. So thanks again for watching, and I hope that you guys don't buy a MacBook Neo. I hope that you try out Linux, and I hope that I see you in the next video.